And as you can see here, Al and Chris are actually playing in the same property. So he's not having to wait for the moderation to happen on this, right? If we have millions of people playing this game and submitting content, it's going to take some amount of time for moderation to approve a property. But he's here before that's happening, and that's because they're best friends in the game. And so they're best friends in the game because they're actually friends in real life. They know each other. It's a trusted connection they've built. So we were thinking about it and saying that's what we got to do, is get this kind of experience, because how sad would it be if you built something, had to wait a day for your friend to see it, right? That would just completely kill the experience. So we have to be able to do this in real time. They can also chat more openly as well, so they can communicate on an easier level, because the rest of the game is pretty restricted in terms of the chat that you can do. So we thought about, again, real world, all right, how does this apply? So I'm a parent, I have kids, they play with the neighbor kids down the street. I don't sit there and moderate their chat. I'm not listening to every word they say, you know, as they say it. Are they saying any dirty words or something like that? I don't moderate their models as they're playing Lego on the floor. And why don't I do that in real life? Because I know those kids, I trust those kids, I know their parents. So they can play together and we can all trust that it's an okay experience, right? If there was some random 30-year-old that walked into my house and wanted to play Lego with my son, I would probably be watching that, right? And so we don't necessarily want to encourage that connection. We want to encourage friends. So if we can make that happen like what we're seeing right now here, then we have a really good experience where we brought safety up because our social network is strengthened, and we're being more creative because we can do this in real time. So the way we do that is pretty simple, really. You just take some extra steps on Lego.com, which are optional. You don't have to do this, only if you want to use the best friend system. But you verify your identity, because that's central to knowing who you actually are and that you really know each other in real life. Because here's a use case, right? I'm a 13-year-old, I grab my parents' credit card, I sign up for an online game, and I say that I'm 21. And sadly, most games actually will take that at face value and say, oh yeah, it's an adult, they have a credit card, great. Right? But obviously we know that's not safe enough, right? So how do we know you're really not a 13-year-old, or that you really are a 21-year-old, or whatever it may be? So you take some extra steps, just like you would do with a banking application, online banking, things like that, where we can verify you are as old as you say you are and you live where you say you live. And now Lego has a trusted relationship with you as a consumer. And so let's say we have all verified our IDs on Lego.com. Well, that means if I know Fleming and he knows me, we can say we can be best friends on Lego.com. And then in the game we just see, oh, look, Fleming's online, I can go to his property and I can chat more openly with him. And then by extension, you can do that with your child's accounts, because there's already parental controls on Lego.com. You can link the kids' accounts as well and say, I want my son to be friends with the neighbors down the street. And as far as the kid's concerned, he just sees, oh, Johnny from down the street's my best friend now in the game, so now I can go check out his property and we can chat and do all that stuff. So I think it's a pretty cool innovation, because it does bring the best ideas from social networking and user-generated content together. And instead of putting this safety and creativity at odds, it actually raises them both up a couple of notches. So it was a pretty big win for us. But I've talked enough about that. Blah, 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 blah. Here's the cool stuff. Chris is actually building things in his property, all in the background here. You notice how quickly he put that castle together. That time lapse in the video you saw was only about 2 minutes to build that entire castle, and that's because what we do in the gameplay is reward you modularly designed models. So there's a whole castle set that's split into little sections, and you can earn those as rewards for smashing the bad guys. You'll find them as random loot, achievements, quests. You can buy them in shops, and there's hundreds and hundreds of these things that are all different kinds. So if you're not a very good Lego builder, you can come into your property and still build something pretty cool pretty quickly. And then if you want to, you can go customize it. So you can zoom into the brick level and actually change the colors on the bricks, maybe swap just a few pieces out. Or if you really want to go after it, take the whole thing apart, take all those bricks and make something completely new, right? So you got every level of comfort and skill that you can accompany, or that you can go after on that. So, but then even cooler than that, you're watching him actually bring these models to life and add interactivity to them. So this is the behavior system. And think of this just like building with Lego bricks. It's playing with little blocks. So you put these little blocks together and you snap them together, and that defines a bigger model that defines how you actually interact with the environment with this particular thing. So if we look a little bit closer at what he's actually doing here, I can give you examples of what's going on. And this is building on 10 years plus of Lego's experience with robotics kits, Mindstorms, NXT, WeDo. So they've kind of learned a lot from a lot of consumer research and a lot of iterations on these things. We share a very similar visual style and metaphor that they do. Again, the idea is this is playful, not programming, not technical, not scary, playful. So when you put these things together, you can just kind of toy around with it and see what it does. You're not going to break anything. Things might go crazy or whatever, but you can just take them back off and it's fine. And so that's part of the fun, is actually figuring out how to put these things together and what they do. Okay, so some detailed examples here. What he's doing is, these little yellow blocks are telling the model to listen for certain things. So this one is proximity. If something gets near to me, then I'm going to run away from it. Pretty simple. This one says, if another model bumps me, I'm going to smash, then I'm going to wait a couple of seconds, then I'm going to rebuild myself. Okay, and this third one here is, if something attacks me, I'm going to attack it back, I'm going to smash myself, I'm going to wait for a few seconds, then I'm going to rebuild myself. And finally here, if I hear a certain word in chat, I'm going to spin around 360 degrees. Okay? And this is a sample. You'll actually unlock these behavior blocks as you play through the game. So you start with simple ones, you do some other achievements, you get some more complicated ones, all the way up to things like state machines. So it's pretty advanced stuff if you get into it. Also optional if you don't. If for whatever reason this isn't your thing, you don't have to do it either. You can just build cool Lego stuff. So that's what we've set up on the duck. Then we copied it into our backpack and then quickly applied it to the blue duck here. And what Chris has actually built here is a quick little race course. So it's actually built a little 2-player mini game where we can race our ducks against each other and try to get to the finish line. But if we hit any of the obstacles in the way, then our ducks smash and we have to wait for it to rebuild. So there's a bit of challenge here. So we can kind of move the ducks around and try to navigate them through the obstacle course so we can get to the finish line in time. There's also some tactics where, if we want to, we can go play some defense and smack the other guy's duck, which will smash it, but it'll also cause some damage to us. We can only do it a few times. And I'll point out that yesterday we did a completely different demo on this. We actually brainstormed this one in about 5 minutes this morning. Every time we demo, we like to try to mix it up a little bit and see what we can actually do with the system. Yesterday we did super extreme duck ball, where you could actually remote control the duck with buttons set up on either side of the field and try to get them across the battlefield to get to the other guy's flag, right? And again, you can do that in 5 or 10 minutes. These are all very simple ideas we're doing, but it demonstrates, you know, the potential of this. If we can do this in 5 minutes with very little thought and effort, you know, what can you do if you spend an hour with it or a couple of play sessions, and if you put a lot more brick to it, right? And if everything gets messed up, you can just put your thinking hat back on and reset it with the click of a button. Everything's back. You can tweak the behaviors a little bit and see if you can get it to do what you want. And so this to us is kind of the spirit of Lego Play coming through. You can see the progression went through in the game, where you start with very game-oriented elements, and end up here actually, you know, designing models on a brick level and putting, you know, what can be very complex behaviors on it, but in a very accessible way. And it felt very natural as we progressed through it. So I would also just, you know, kind of the last thing I'll point out on the game as a whole is we could have just made Lego Universe this part, right? We could have just said, hey, go build some stuff in these worlds and make them come to life, right? That would have been probably easier to build an entire MMOG as well on top of this. But we felt very strongly that you need to care about this world, right? How much more impactful is it that this guy here, that's me, and I've adventured through tons of quests. I've earned every single brick that you see here. I've earned, right? I battled the bad guys and I got those bricks and all those coins I spent to get these models and so forth. And in fact, I earned this property. I claimed this from the Maelstrom. And every single thing I'm building here, my imagination is battling the Maelstrom. I'm saving the universe by building, right? How cool is that? So everything I'm doing on this property has meaning and status and represents my effort in the game. At the same time, I'm being creative, which re-energizes me to play the game more, because I have new ideas and I want to build bigger and cooler things here, and I'll go back and get more bricks and more models and come back and get some new ideas. And you see how you can kind of, this becomes like a creative end game for an MMOG, which I think is a very refreshing and new idea to the genre, I hope. At least as I've played it, and I've been a pretty hardcore MMO player in the past. This is a lot more fun and light, and it's enjoyable. It never feels like work to me. Even when we're coming up with demonstration ideas, it's kind of just playing around and messing around with it, and it's really rewarding stuff.